1 weekend ago, 2 Pokemon Go regional championships were held on the exact same weekend. The first was in Gdansk, where PvP David and Boom played out an exciting mirror match finals, with PvP David claiming yet another regional championship win. The second regional championship was held in Brisbane, Australia. Australia's finest turned out for the opportunity to battle for a regional championship, and the battles did not disappoint. At the end of a long weekend of competition, a first-time regional champion was crowned, and their name is Gone. And this is the team that they used: Blastoise, Shadow Scizor, Shadow Talonflame, Galarian Corsola, Unova Stunfisk, and Pangoro. A lot of meta staples that we've seen win before, with one notable exception. Pangoro is a dark and fighting type Pokemon with the moveset of Karate Chop, Night Slash, and Close Combat. While Pangoro has made plenty of top cuts, this is actually the first ever regional championship win for the Panda. Today, we're going to be showcasing some of Gone's matches as he was able to claim the regional championship title. The first match we'll be taking a look at is from the Winners Finals, Gone 1001 versus Jumathy. While most trainers are starting to leave behind the Mudslappers, Jumathy is still rocking with the Gastrodon. Paired with the Gastrodon is Galarian Moltres, Forretress, Blastoise, Credilli, and Galarian Corsola. So at first glance, this Pangoro has 0 bad matchups into Jumathy's team, and Gone is going to be heavily relying on it for every game of this best of 5 series. The battlers lock in for game number 1, and it's Pangoro for Gone into the Gastrodon for Jumathy. This is probably best case scenario for Jumathy, as at the very least, Gastrodon does have solid fast move pressure into the Pangoro. Pangoro not gonna bait, gonna full send the Close Combat, but Jumathy sniffs it out and gets the shield call right. This is gonna force the Pangoro off the field, and in comes Blastoise. There is not an immediate response available for Jumathy, so Jumathy stays in, throws the Body Slam to get a little bit of damage out of the Blastoise, but this is honestly pretty nice for Gone, as Gone is more than happy to just take the Body Slams here, because Blastoise takes this damage a lot better than the Pangoro. Out comes Forretress, and Forretress is about to get absolutely washed away by all these loaded Hydro Cannons. Blastoise, Hydro Cannon number 1 is going to connect, shortly followed thereafter by Hydro Cannon number 2. After this, the switch timer will be available for Gone, so if Gone wants to send out the Corsola, Gone will have the ability to do so, and in comes the Corsola. Corsola going to get a full farm down. Corsola is going to exit at -1 attack, but it's going to be exiting up quite a bit of energy. Rock Tomb lands, the debuff means the Astonish does not knock out, so Corsola gets a 50 energy head start as Blastoise hits the field. Corsola is debuffed, which means Blastoise is going to have to no shield, because if Corsola is able to switch out and reset the debuff, then future charge moves would obviously do more. But the Corsola still has 2 shields to hide behind, and it's outside of Hydro Cannon range, so everything is looking good for Gone in this game number 1. Nightshade is going to land. The party had Blastoise farming up to 100 energy just for an immediate switch by Gone into his own Blastoise. The undercharge from Jumathy hoping to not take the knockout here and gets a perfect farm down, but the Blastoise is again still very, very low. Back in comes Pangoro, and Pangoro is already almost at another Night Slash. Blastoise will force the first shield, but Blastoise is in danger of being fully farmed down. That's going to force a switch out from Jumathy into the Gastrodon. Pangoro, full sent earlier, now going for the bait, and the bait pays off as Gastrodon puts up the shield. Gastrodon will get the Body Slam before the Close Combat is reached. Gone goes for a catch attempt, but Jumathy, great patience. Jumathy going to overfarm as much as possible, throwing the Water Pulse 1 turn before that Nightshade is available. The Water Pulse, even with the undercharge, is still going to take the knockout. Back in comes Pangoro, and Pangoro should be able to take the KO with the Night Slash. The Blastoise still alive for Jumathy in the back, but it's bad news as it's incredibly low on HP. The Blastoise is a Hydro Cannon, but it simply will not matter. The Pangoro still had the shield to hide behind. Night Slash KOs the Blastoise, and that's going to be a game 1 win for Gone. Hopping into game number 2, it's the Pangoro lead once again, but this time it's leading into the Forretress for Jumathy. Forretress will be able to apply consistent fast move pressure with Bug Bite, but the extreme pacing advantage for Pangoro makes this tricky. The no shield from Forretress, this is a Close Combat from Pangoro, devastating damage, and now in comes Blastoise. Blastoise going to be answered with Credilli. Credilli does have a pretty nice matchup into the Blastoise, as 2 Hydro Cannons will fail to take a knockout, and Credilli can threaten big super effective damage with a Grass Knot. Blastoise a big fan of being up energy in this matchup, however. This Grass Knot will fail to take the knockout, but the next Hydro Cannon will not KO either. Grass Knot is going to land, putting Blastoise deep into the red health. Blastoise will make another Hydro Cannon, but Credilli can no shield, get a full farm down, and exit with quite a bit of energy. So this game going a lot better for Jumothy. Jumothy gets the farm down, exiting on very low HP, and with a Grass Knot, which will inflict big damage onto Pangoro. Out comes Galarian Corsola, and Jumothy, with the reaction, is going to fire off the Rock Tomb instead, wanting this Corsola to be debuffed. Aggressive pivot from Jumothy into the Gastrodon. I love this play. Gastrodon farming. Oh no! Gon tried to go for the CMP type, but that backfires in a massive way as Gastrodon gets a full Mud Slap through. Gastrodon will now be able to get a full farm down. Pangoro makes a last-second Night Slash, but health on this Gastrodon is so valuable. The Gastrodon is not close to Nightshade range. In comes Corsola, and here is a Body Slam bait that instantly gets the shield. Oh, that is a savage bait from Jumothy, and that's going to allow Jumothy to outpace. Jumothy gets to the Water Pulse before the Nightshade is available. No shield from Gon, and this Corsola is about to lose a lot of health. Corsola now very low. In comes the Fortress. Fortress immediately going for the Sand Tomb. The shield comes up, but the damage has been done. Jumothy found a way around the Pangoro. Pangoro losing a lot of HP to those bug bites in the earlier part of the game, and then Gastrodon cleaning up endgame once that Rock Tomb debuff had been applied. So for Gon, suddenly, this matchup not looking as clean as it did on paper, as Jumothy's game plan worked to perfection, and we now have an even game going into this game number 3. The battlers lock in for game number 3. It's Fortress once again for Jumothy, but an adjustment from Gon. Gon now leading Galarian Corsola. This matchup is exactly where Gon wants to be. The Pangoro gets to avoid those bug bites. Even though Pangoro has a huge pacing advantage, those bug bites effectively remove so much of Panda's health bar and let it be slapped down by the Gastrodon later on. It really feels in this tricky matchup, Jumothy is forced into running Fortress plus Gastrodon every single game, then he can kind of alternate whatever third Pokemon he wants to bring, depending on what he thinks Gon will play. But that's what he's forced into because he's so incredibly weak to Pangoro. The debuff gets applied by Rock Tomb, so now this is a debuff to Nightshade that will miss the knockout, but all it does is just give more farm to the Corsola. Out comes Galarian Moltres, aggressive pivot into Pangoro. Pangoro farming up to the close combat, but chooses not to throw it. Debuffing your defense so early in the switch clock can be costly, so Gon choosing to hold on to the energy. Moltres not switching out either, gonna farm up to the back-to-back close combats. In comes Gastrodon, and now Pangoro gets the start unleashing its energy. Close combat, no shielded by Jumothy, and that is devastating damage. Pangoro can now fire off a Night Slash, and is one Karate Chop off a second Night Slash. This Pangoro going on an absolute rampage. Night Slash after Night Slash, shield after shield. This Pangoro putting so much pressure on the team, and the switch timer's up, so Pangoro gets to reset its defense drop and bring in the Corsola. Gastrodon intentionally not throwing its energy, because if Jumothy's gonna have any chance in this game, it's with Galarian Moltres farm. Galarian Moltres gonna exit with a fly, but it's gonna get outpaced. The Blastoise won't even be needed for this game. It's a 2v3. Pangoro makes the close combat. Galarian Moltres, I'm so sorry, it is not surviving. Down goes the Moltres, and Gon is one win away from advancing to the Grand Finals. The battlers lock in for game number 4. Blastoise on the lead for Jumothy, and Blastoise for Gon. This mirror match is always a tricky one. Who wins charge tech priority? Does either Blastoise bait, or does either Blastoise go for the catch? Gon farming up, going for the Skull Bash, and a devastating catch from Jumothy, catching the Skull Bash onto the Fortress. That is a massive waste of energy for Gon, and puts Jumothy at an advantage. Even though Fortress gets answered with Galarian Corsola, which is a bad matchup for the Fortress, that Blastoise energy can still be very, very threatening later in the game. Jumothy has to know the Pangoro will always be in the back, and we can confirm that it is back there. Fortress letting itself get as low as possible before throwing the Rock Tomb, not wanting to give any extra farm to the Corsola. Corsola takes the knockout. In comes the Blastoise. Blastoise looking to overfarm at a -1 Nightshade, not a particularly threatening attack, so Blastoise will not shield. Blastoise going for the Hydro Cannon, and unfortunately for Jumothy, Hydro Cannon will not knock out the Corsola. Corsola will be able to hang on here, so Corsola will survive. There's an aggressive pivot. Gon sending in his own Blastoise, and this is a Skull Bash. No bait from Jumothy, and the shield comes up from Gon. That is a very big swing, as that is a lot of energy lost. Gone, farming up to the Skull Bash, get a full set of the Skull Bash, and Jumothy puts up the shield as well. So both Blastoises have now successfully boosted up their defense, but they have lost a lot of energy. Gone had his Skull Bash caught, and Jumothy had it shielded. But the second Skull Bash is going to land, and that's big damage onto Gone's Blastoise. Gone just going to go for the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon will not knock out a +2 Blastoise, but it will be getting Jumothy very low. When does either trainer look to pivot? There it is. In comes the Gastrodon. Gastrodon does not get the farm down. Jumothy hoping for the farm, but Blastoise hangs on, making the Hydro Cannon right before the Mud Slap takes the knockout. In comes Pangoro, and now Pangoro can pretty much just go for Night Slashes. Letting that Hydro Cannon was an incredibly good turn of events for Gone. The Body Slam bait does get the shield. Switch Clock is available for Gone if he needs it. Gone looking to pressure a knockout with the Night Slash. Night Slash no shielded by Jumothy. Can Jumothy hang on? Yes, Jumothy can! Gastrodon on 1 HP, barely able to survive and get the Body Slam. Body Slam lands onto Pangoro. It's all up to Blastoise. Blastoise answered with the Corsola. Corsola gets the Astonish down, and Gone wins the Winners Finals 3-1 and is moving on to the Grand Finals. In Grand Finals, Gone's opponent is Poke Moneymaker, a trainer running a team built around Fearow, which recently won the Milwaukee Regional Championships. The full team is Fearow, Galarian Corsola, Shadow Drapion, Gastrodon, Credilli, and Shadow Annihilate, and this again will be a best-of-5 series. The trainers lock in for game number 1, and it's a dream lead for Gone, leading Corsola into Shadow Annihilate. The safe switch from Poke Moneymaker, gonna send in the Shadow Drapion, and that will be answered with the Shadow Scizor. Scizor will get absolutely crushed by a Crunch. Shadow on Shadow, Crunch does so much damage, so Scizor puts up the shield and actually does get debuffed. That is a bit of good luck for Poke Moneymakers. That's only a 20% chance. The Trailblaze comes out from Gone. Trailblaze lands. Scizor unable to take the knockout. The Aqua Tail is reached, and now Gone ends up putting up both shields. This means that a lot of resources have gone into the Scizor, which is just going to get fully farmed down by the Annihilate. Annihilate going to be hit with the Night Slash. Night Slash would do big damage. Poke Moneymaker realizes he can't just save 2 shields for the Gastrodon. He's going to need to land a Rage Fist onto the Corsola. In comes the Corsola. Rage Fist will do very valuable damage to help Poke Moneymaker put it into Mud Slap plus Water Pulse range. The Rage Fist lands. In comes the Gastrodon, and the Corsola is not switching out. Rather, Corsola will just go for the Nightshade, and now a tough decision to make for the Gastrodon. Gastrodon no shields, calling that whatever's in back is going to hit harder, and immediately proven correct, as out comes the Pangoro. Pangoro, now that a Nightshade is landed, however, doesn't have to throw close combat. Pangoro can just go for the Night Slash. No boost comes out from the Night Slash. Back-to-back Body Slams available for Poke Moneymaker. Poke Moneymaker thinking Water Pulse may not take the knockout, but double Body Slam definitely will. Very nice overfarm from Poke Moneymaker, throwing 1 Mud Slap and the Body Slam, not letting any extra energy go to waste. The Body Slam takes the knockout. In comes Galarian Corsola. Corsola hoping for the farm down, but the energy management was pristine. Gastrodon gets to the Water Pulse. Water Pulse knocks out Galarian Corsola, and it's Poke Moneymaker in these Grand Finals who is able to win Game 1 despite leading Shadow Annihilate into Galarian Corsola. Battlers lock in for game number 2. Poke Moneymaker sticking with the Annihilate, and once again it's greeted by the Corsola. 2 disastrous leads for Poke Moneymaker. This time we see a Gastrodon safe switch. Corsola gonna stay in this matchup, banking energy. Out comes the Blastoise. This Gastrodon has an absolutely monster energy head start. With the Astonishes that have landed, the Gastrodon is now firmly in 2 Hydro Cannon range, which was probably the idea. Bank the energy, and then this makes the matchup a lot easier for the Blastoise. Gastrodon gonna be no shielding, recognizing that a Hydro Cannon will not knock out. Hydro Cannon does get the Gastrodon very low, but now this potentially opens the door for Poke Moneymaker to flip switch advantage. And considering that the back Pokemon is gonna be that Drapion once again, that would be a very nice swing. Blastoise tries to get to the back-to-back Hydro Cannons, but it will not get there. The Mud Slap that went through will take the knockout, and Poke Moneymaker, at the expense of going down a shield, has 1 switch advantage. Gon now knows this Pangoro is completely useless, so Pangoro will be used as a damage sponge. Pangoro does not want to deal with Annihilate, so Pangoro is going to be no shielding the water pulse. Pangoro can look for the farm down, but no, there's a switch and a snipe by the Corsola. Corsola up energy, and it's going to need it as out comes Shadow Drapion. Shadow Drapion is known for its incredibly consistent damage output and unbelievable pacing, and it's going to need it. It's down a shield. Well, it started down a shield, now it's down 2 shields, and add to that the fact that it's already down a ton of energy as well. The Crunch is going to be getting the shield, no debuff this time. Power Gem guaranteed to land, no Protect shields for Drapion to hide behind. Drapion is going to be getting quite low, as with a few more Astonishes, it'll be into the red HP. There's the switch into Pangoro. Pangoro going for the Night Slash, but it's going to be caught onto the Annihilate. This will do sizable damage to the Annihilate. Annihilate is going to get the full farm down and exit with just a little bit of energy. In comes the Galarian Corsola. Corsola will fire off the Nightshade, able to take the knockout, denying Annihilate the ability to make the Rage Fist. Drapion still has all the energy in the world, and Drapion is now an Aqua Tail plus a Crunch, and the bait is successful. Aqua Tail gets the shield from this Corsola, and now Crunch is guaranteed to land. Galarian Corsola is an exceedingly bulky Pokemon, but this is a Shadow Drapion. Shadow Crunch will be taking the knockout, and despite leading Annihilate into Corsola twice, Pokemon Maker is now up 2 games to 0. Game number 3, it's going to be Fearow for Pokemon Maker into the Corsola for Gon. Gon sticking to his strategy, leading that Corsola, but for Pokemon Maker, a significantly better lead matchup. Fearow is going to be double resisting the Astonishes, but Power Gem will hit for big super effective damage. The Drill Peck is going to land. We do see the Annihilate in the bag for Pokemon Maker, so Annihilate very happy to finally get to avoid the Corsola. Corsola's Power Gem is going to pressure the shield. Aggressive pivot into the Blastoise. Blastoise will immediately be greeted with the Drill Peck. What does Pokemon Maker decide to send in here? Will it be the Annihilate? No, it's going to be the Gastrodon. Gastrodon going to hit the field, and Gastrodon will be able to survive this Hydro Cannon pretty comfortably, but unfortunately for the Gastrodon, unless it wants another Hydro Cannon to land, it will need to fire off the Body Slam. So, Pokemon Maker does just that, going for the Body Slam, and that's going to pressure a shield from the Blastoise. Blastoise wants this damage, putting up the shield, going for the Hydro Cannon. Gastrodon, however, knows this Hydro Cannon will not be enough to knock out. Switch Clock should be available soon for Gon. In comes the Corsola, and a very nice Body Slam catch. Corsola double resisting the Body Slam. That's going to do basically nothing. And back in comes the Fearow. Fearow, energy dry, going to get outpaced. And that is going to pressure the final shield away from Pokemon Maker. The big question is, can Fearow get a full Peck farm down? It's going to be very close. Galarian Corsola is an extremely bulky Pokemon. Corsola reaching for the Power Gem, and that's going to force Fearow's hand. Fearow does not commit to the farm down, worried the Corsola might survive on 1 HP, taking the knockout with the Drill Peck. But if he exited with the back-to-back charge stacks loaded, then it would just be an instantly won game. But suddenly, there's life for Gon. The shield comes up on the Drill Peck. Scizor continuing the farm. There's the switch into Annihilate. Annihilate going to get absolutely deleted by a Trailblaze momentarily, but the Fearow is still very close to a charge attack. This game will come down to a catch. Does Gon go for it? The Fearow should be only 2 off and should barely survive 2 bullet punches. Pokemon Maker waiting down the timer, sending in the Fearow, predicting the switch from Gon, but Gon stays in. Gon does not go for the switch, gets the 50-50 right, and we are going to a game number 4. Both battlers get locked in. It's going to be the Fearow once again for Pokemon Maker, but the first adjustment from Gon, it's going to be answered with Blastoise. Blastoise has really nice fast move pressure in this matchup as the rollouts do add up quite a bit, but it's Fearow that's going to strike first with the Drill Peck. Drill Peck going to be no shielded. Blastoise is very, very bulky, so Blastoise more than happy to absorb that energy, and a nice catch and sneak onto the Gastrodon for Pokemon Maker. Gastrodon will still take some pretty sizable damage from the Hydro Cannon, and now out comes Pangoro. Gon doesn't know it yet, but this is an incredibly important moment of the match, because this means Pangoro will get to avoid the Shadow Annihilate that's lurking in the back. Pangoro, how much can it overfarm by? Pangoro gonna overfarm, making sure to take the knockout by going for the close combat. Not wanting any 1 HP Gastrodon survives from a Night Slash. Close combat will take the knockout. Pangoro does have the Night Slash ready. In comes Annihilate, and Annihilate is going to lose quite a bit of its health bar, probably around 30 to 40%. The Night Slash lands. Oh, that's closer to 50%, and out comes Shadow Scizor. Shadow Scizor would love a farm down. It's not going to get it before the Rage Fist is available, but Scizor is more than happy to put up the shield. This could just go down to a fast move beatdown now, as Scizor gets that farm down. All that's left is the Fearow. Fearow gonna take big damage from the bullet punches. Scizor, instead of going for the Trailblaze, is gonna opt to win by virtue of getting 3 charge attacks, 2 Night Slashes, and the Hydro Cannon. We know the Blastoise is very close to another Hydro Cannon. This Night Slash will force the final shield, and now it's time. In comes the Blastoise. Blastoise outpaces by 1 singular turn. That's going to be knocking out the Fearow. Fearow was so close to the back-to-back Drill Packs, and after going down 0-2 in this series, Gone reels off back-to-back wins, and we're going to a decisive game number 5. This game will decide whether we crown a regional champion or go to a bracket reset for a second best of 5. The battlers lock in Corsola for Gone into the Gastrodon for Poké Moneymaker. Immediate safe switch by Gone, sending out the Blastoise. Blastoise, because of the 1-turn switch, will get outpaced by the Gastrodon, as Gastrodon will look to chip with a Body Slam and deny Blastoise a rollout sneak. Looks like Gastrodon is going to stay on the field for now. Poké Moneymaker saving that Annihilate, potentially reading that this could be a bait out for a Pangoro in the back. However, in this pivotal game number 5, it looks like Gone has actually benched the Pangoro, maybe predicting the Annihilate from Poké Moneymaker. Another Body Slam is going to connect. Gastrodon now going to be hit with a Hydro Cannon. Does Poké Moneymaker play for switch advantage? Poké Moneymaker does. The shield does come up, and that's going to be a full farm down for the Gastrodon. In comes Galarian Corsola, and Corsola, looks like Corsola can go for a full farm down of its own. Gastrodon will make a Water Pulse, but this is a Galarian Corsola. Its job is to be bulky, so there's a no shield coming out. All shields are being saved for the Shadow Scizor in the back. Poké Moneymaker with switch advantage gets to put in the Drapion, but Drapion, it's so far behind. Corsola already 1 away from another Power Gem. The Power Gem is going to land. It's time. In comes Shadow Scizor. Scizor answered with the Annihilate, but the big thing to watch is going to be the counter damage. Scizor going for the Night Slash. Annihilate puts up the shield. Do we see the Night Slash boost? No, we do not. The Rage Fist coming out from the Annihilate. Annihilate just looking to ramp up its damage, but the no shield from Scizor. Scizor knows this is its game to win. Annihilate is now boosted, but there's all the shields in the world for the Galarian Corsola, and there's just Poison Sting available for the Drapion. Drapion will get hit with a Power Gem. No Protect Shields left to hide behind. Not enough HP remaining. Power Gem lands. What Astonish later. Corsola farms down, and Gone 1001 with a reverse sweep wins the Grand Finals and claims the title of Brisbane Regional Champion. All in all, big congratulations to Gone, claiming his first regional championship win, and Pangoro, finally, after many top cuts and many failed attempts, can be called a regional champion. And Pangoro was an absolute nightmare in those winners finals. Jumothy was constantly fighting from a losing position because of how strong Pangoro was into his team. And Pangoro, it made a few appearances in the grand finals, but the pivotal decision to bench Pangoro in game number 5 for the Shadow Scizor, anticipating that the Annihilate would be brought, that's the kind of decision that makes a champion. And that's exactly what Gone is after this weekend. Thank you so much for watching. My name is HomeSliceHenry, and this is More Slice Henry, my second channel where I cover content related to the Pokemon Go Championship Series, educational content about Pokemon Go PvP, and just content in general that I feel doesn't really fit the main channel. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not, and I'll see you guys in the next one.